Hi everybody, it's Amina, Prophetess Amina from On the Wall Prayer Ministries. I wanted to stop by today to talk to you all about the process of being single after divorce or separation. And so before I say anything, I want to give you a little bit of my testimony. I was married to my now ex-husband for 18 years. That's a long time. But before that, let us go back a little bit more, about a year before I got married. So that is time, that we put into a marriage before marriage. So you add that time that you placed into your relationship. That's nearly 20 years that we deposited into each other. And yes, I say we because he had to play a part just like I had to, and I had to play a role just like he had to. So we'll add in there nearly 20 years of time that we spent, both good days and bad days, storms and rain, right? But what do you do when there is no closure? What do you do when you are forced to have to move on without knowing, right? Without knowing what happened or why things happened the way they did, right? So in my case, my husband left. And I waited a good 3 months, maybe 4 months, to see, to give him an opportunity to come back. And my family at the time, they wanted me to leave. They wanted me to come home. But I was so dedicated to my marriage. I knew my husband had many problems, many issues, right? My husband was an alcoholic and a workaholic. So that was something that I had faced all throughout my marriage, along with infidelity and some verbal and some physical abuse during my marriage. But I still had hope throughout my marriage that things would get better. And then came along COVID. And for many people at that time, COVID was a catalyst to many marriages splitting up and many marriages seeing a deeper bond. But in my case, COVID neither made things better nor did they make things any worse. They couldn't have gotten any worse at that time because they were already bad. So we moved past COVID, got through that 4 years later. Now 4 years later, in November of 2024, after a very long trip around the country, we came back to Washington State, and my husband at that time, he said that he was going for a job, and he was supposed to come back that night around 6:30 p.m. He had called me on the phone, said that he was on his way home, but that night my husband did not return. The day after that, my husband did not return. And for 3 months, my husband did not return. It was in February of 2025 when I decided that enough was enough, and that it was time for me to cut my losses and go home. that's what I did. I got on a plane and I came back to where I am now. And let me tell you, leaving was not the easiest thing. Making the decision to leave the life, because at that time my husband was my life. So I say leave the life that I knew to come back to a life that is foreign to me. And do I say that it was the best decision for me to come home? Absolutely. It was absolutely the best decision for me to come back here and to find myself again, to learn the process of loving myself again. For many people, loving yourself looks different. So let's talk about that. Loving yourself through moments of pain and grief. And yes, you are in grief because losing a marriage is like experiencing a death of someone you love. You're used to being in an environment with someone that you care for deeply. In my case, it was just my husband and I. We had no children together, so we didn't have any hungry mouths to feed. It was just me and I. And so my world was being a good housewife to my husband. And yes, I was a housewife. I didn't go to a job every day. I had a business, a jewelry designing business, which was working very well for me. Yes, the process was slow, but it was making good money for me. Money that I was able to have for myself, aside from my husband and his work and the things that he was doing to bring extra income in. And I was fortunate enough to have, inventory from other sources to be able to sustain myself as a woman, as a business owner. I was able to sustain myself and did well for myself. But what led to my husband leaving, I don't know, even to this day. So what do you do when you're in the midst of mourning a loss, like a long-term marriage? And I'm not saying that short-term marriages are not any easier, right? But I'm speaking specifically to long-term relationships and specifically to women who are in their late 40s and 50s, right? Life is hard enough when you're in your 30s, early 40s. But couple that with being older